Hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of the event advertising design assignment, and we have created all these graphics from the previous design. And one of the main things that we need to do right now is we need to go ahead and fit this image to window. So you can go under View and then zoom in, zoom out, and then fit page and window, Command 0 or Control 0 on Windows, and fit spread if there's a 2-page spread, then actual size, entire pasteboard, and so on. So we're just going to fit the page to the size, so that's Command 0 or Control 0. And then we want to, I pulled in some text. This is the information that I have. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's the information I have for the event. And then this is some text that I pulled off the internet. So I just copied and pasted it into a text box. So to do that, all you need to do is go to one of the web pages that you might have open already. And if there's something that you have that you want to go to, you may want to go to something like a page layout like this for the White Sands Balloon Festival, and then I just went down to the text here and copied and pasted it. Okay, so same thing with, I have the dates and any other information that you may want to take from there. You can just copy it and then create a text box, just click and drag and then paste into that. So I had festival in the copy block on that. So let's go ahead and move back to this. So we'll get to those in a second, but first thing we want to do is we want to add a logo, or one of the things we want to do. So there are a few different choices on this. So if you go to the website, you can, or one of the websites, you can find some graphics that have been created for the White Sands Balloon Festival, but they're not very good. They're just okay. Now this is one of them. It's a nice design, but it's in a low resolution image size. It's only 151 kilobyte, and you can see it's kind of blurry. I'll bring that over. I'll show that to you in Photoshop, and you can kind of take a look at this and see what it looks like, because it doesn't look very good. I'll pull this over, and you can see as I pull it over, you'll see that's really blurry. And the zoom, you get zoomed in, it's really pixelized. So that's one of the problems with picking up graphics from the internet, is you never know what you're going to get from that. So I would suggest that you create your own. And it's not really that hard to do that. But if I brought this in right now, it would also come in, because it's a JPEG image, it would come in as a JPEG with a white box in the background. And if I created this in Adobe Illustrator or even Photoshop, I could bring it in without the background, so I have a lot more control on it. So if I go to place, I'll go ahead and make sure nothing's selected when you do this, by the way, so otherwise you're going to get other graphic, or it'll fill in the text or windows for the photos or any other space that you have selected. So I want to just go ahead and bring it in. There's really not very many options. There's no layers available in general. And then the other thing I'm going to show you too, when you bring it in, make sure when you bring in place things that you check this box that's right here where it says show import options. And that's going to give you a lot more information when you go to bring it in, which gives you that dialog box to give you choices on how you want to bring it in. For this, it's not going to make much difference. It's just going to come in and you're going to see it. But it's not going to be, it's going to be in a white box, and you're going to have limited availability of what you can do with this, because of the fact that it is in a white box. So if I had let's just say I had a color background, which we probably will be doing eventually, I'll just go ahead and create a box here, and we can fill it with color. Let's just fill it. I'll fill it with we only have so many standard colors in here, but I'll show you how to fill those too, to go ahead and make sure I have it selected. And it's showing that I don't have this in the, see this little question mark, it means that that is no longer in that position. So Well, there's my box. So somehow I did not have it selected. And there it is. Just fill it. I'm going to send it to the back. Command Shift left bracket or Control Shift left bracket. And of course, if you want to make that bigger, you can. All these should go out to the bleed marks too if you were going to make this. But you can see how that looks with a blue background. Or even if I changed it to a nice light colored background of some sort, I could go into my color palette and I could pick another set of colors basically by just going to a lighter color. I can go to my swatches. I can pick gradients, which I don't have yet, but I can create some. But if I go to a lighter color, you can see it still is going to stick out as a white box. So you may not want it that way. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but the options are better if you don't have it that way. So I'll pull this off to the copy block or the page layout side over here, and then we'll go ahead and we'll place another image. Now I recreated this in Adobe Illustrator, and you can see it's Adobe Illustrator file right here. I'll mark it with a green dot on it, and then if I bring that in, there are 3 artboards for this, so you can bring in either artboard you want. So you can see there's 3 different ones, and if you go to these arrows you can see them. I'm going to bring in that one, I think, instead of this one. So that's the second one. Now you don't choose it here, but it's in here, show import options, and you're going to say OK, and then it's going to give you the option of what page, how many pages you want to bring in. And there's page 2, page 3. I want page 3. I want it right here. So preview page. So that's what I want, the preview page. So we'll go ahead and bring that in. And then when I bring it in, you can see from Adobe Illustrator that there's no background on this. And I can go ahead and size it, reduce the size of it, and I still don't have any problems with it. And it could go over the photo. I could put it other places, which this would be a great place for it actually. Wouldn't be a bad spot at all. But if you do this one, you're going to have this white box. It's going to look like you don't know what you're doing, basically. So I have the graphic here from Photoshop, or I mean from InDesign. I can also bring in a graphic from Photoshop. So if you created this in Photoshop, you could also bring that in here. And here's the, let's see, is that the Photoshop one? This is the bad quality one that I showed you earlier, and this is the revision that I created in Photoshop. And I can bring that in, make sure that you have that show import options available. So I can bring that in, but you can see on Photoshop when you bring it in, you can bring it in either with layer 1 or layer 2. Now when I created it, I created a layer at the bottom that had the white background in it. So I can take the white background out, or I can leave it in if I want it to be left in. But if I turn this off and say OK, it'll be brought in as a graphic just like that, and I will have another logo that I can use. So I can pick and choose which ones. Now when you're doing this, you need to also be aware of the fact that in links palette, these will all be linked. Now for some reason we're missing this image, which is a good time to show you this, is if we're missing an image right here, what you can do is this tells you that it's not linked to your file in your layout. So you can go to this little number icon right here and click on it, and it'll show you which photo it is, which image it is, so you know exactly where it's at. Then you can also go to relink it. This is linking to CC libraries, and if you don't have the software, you won't have the CC libraries, but that's something you can keep with you whenever you log into the Creative Cloud. You can relink it and go find that. Also, you can go to link, and if it's linked, it'll find it. Those typically are grayed out. So, but what it does is it just finds the link on your page. This is update your link, and then this is if you've created in a program like Photoshop, you can edit that. So if I clicked on this, I can go down here and it will open that in Photoshop just by clicking on that. So in here, what we can do There's a few things we can also find out more information about it by going to this little arrow here. It'll give me more information about it. So that's the, it also has the name here and name here. So MG 0193 copy. So if I go to relink, I can go in here and go to make sure I'm going to my documents to the correct place for it, and I'm sure I have a lot of information on here, so you might get lost. So it would be in my photos, and if you have this open, so now you can see that I am missing the MG0193 copy.jpg because I removed the word copy from the image file for demonstration purposes. That's what happens when you change a file name or it is missing. So there's that image. It's the exact same image that's on my layout, you can see. And then go ahead and open and relink it. And just go ahead and say image. You want to image import options. And it gives you the options. That's the name. That's the color format. So I'd already changed the color profile to Adobe RGB 1998, which is the format profile for print design as well. And just go ahead and say OK. And now it updates it, and it updates it in your list. So I went backwards. I undid what I had done before because you can see this little question mark on this photo again. I just wanted to let you know you can click on this to get to the dialog box to find your file, or you can actually just go to the actual image and double click on that, and it brings up that information again. Then you can find your picture and say OK, OK, and then you lose that icon in here. There's another one that comes up, and it's a little exclamation triangle that shows up, and that's if your file is missing. So you can do the same thing with that. You would just click on this and find that file and go from there. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going on this. So we do have a logo, so I'm going to take this one out. I know I don't want this one. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Okay, and then we have our photos down here. There's a couple other things that we need to think about, and a color background would be a good thing too. So creating a color background or using this green-gray color might not be too bad either. Or we can pick another color. A nice warm color would be good. So we can go into the fill box for the appearance, and we can go to swatches, which we have open, and we can create new swatches by going up to the very top, and then we can create a new color. So new colors can be created with any of these choices. So process color, spot color. Spot color is specific for printing purposes. It's a specific printing ink color that has a specific mix to it. So process colors is, so typically most advertising uses CMYK format, but you can use other settings in here, and you can see all these, the Pantone colors. You can pick those. They have a CMYK coded colors, and these are for print normally. Publications don't use Pantone colors, and it costs really very expensive cost to actually do that. So, but you can pick a CMYK color and just pick a color that you want. If you find a color, you can go to, there's also CMYK colors in here, so you could use those if you want to, but you want to make sure that you pick something that you don't have to pay additionally for printing of that color. It will just convert it over to CMYK if it's a CMYK color. So if you picked a yellow or something, you can go ahead and pick that. It'll be placed into your color swatches, and you can use that color. And it is still a CMYK color, even though it's not showing CMYK. But you can go ahead and pick any color that you want. You can go in here, new color swatches, and pick other colors by just using the color sliders in here to get exactly what you want. Now, a lot of times I'll use more of a nice warm yellow color that's somewhat close to that, which is similar to this too. And then if you pick that, you can use that. But I'm going to use this as the warm color, and then I'm going to preview it without the guides on it, and that looks pretty good. This might need to go up here, or it could even go down a little bit too. So we'll figure out positioning on it. The other thing that's nice is you could create a drop shadow on this too. If it's a Photoshop file, you can bring it in from Photoshop that way, or if it's an Illustrator file, you can bring it in that way too. A couple other things that we need to consider is, where's the text going to go? Also this photo, this was a JPEG photo, you can see, and that was just brought in from the internet, and it's not a very good quality image. So I opened it up in Photoshop and revised it, and I'll show you what that looks like. But if you want to go to this photograph right now, and because it's a JPEG, it hasn't been modified in any of the Adobe programs, if you click on the icon for the pencil, it'll just bring it in. Or if you bring it in your preview software, basically, and that doesn't do you any good because you can't really do anything to it in there. So I'm going to bring this in. I'll go ahead and click on it, and then we'll go ahead and I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'll find this photo where I created it, and I created it in a PSD format. I think it's right here. And then I'll show you what this looks like when you bring it in. So show import options, leaving that checked. And when you bring it in, you have a choice of how you want to bring that in. Now you can bring it in as with the levels adjustment, which I created in Photoshop, or you can turn that off, or you can turn the background off. And the background is the actual image in this, but you have choices on how you want to bring that in. These are the level adjustments that I created for it, and you can see I had those off, but I can turn those on and they'll bring those in also. But I'm going to leave those off for a second and show you what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it in that way. Okay, and now the photo looks a lot better, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and I'm going to go ahead and make those changes to that actual photo itself. And you can see when I bring this in, you can see if I pull it over here that you can see that typically I have adjustments on it, and those adjustments are in my layers, and you can see here on my layers I didn't have these turned on, so I'm going to turn those on and go ahead and save it because it makes the photo look better. I'm going to pull this out of the way for now, and now when I go in here, I should be able to go into the links again, and it should show me that that's been modified. So if you modified your photo, I just turned those adjustments off and then turn them back on. That means it's been modified since it's been brought in. So in order to fix that, you can either double click on this, or you can go into your image and double click on this to update it. And what it did is it automatically updated it. There's also if I go back, I'll undo that. There's also a little link right here that updates your link. So that's one of the ones I use pretty normally, but now you don't have any issues going on in your links at all, and your photo looks a lot better. So we're going to stop here, and we'll come back and finish putting in the text and doing some other things to this design. So stay tuned for part 3.